A video like this is always a little difficult because I'm not sure if I'm going to start with the discussion surrounding the anime or the anime itself. Honestly, I think I'll probably just mix both of those things up as I end up talking. Sound good to you? Okay, great. The Chainsaw Man anime came out a little bit ago, and I didn't want to talk about it when it first came out because I knew there were going to be a lot of knee-jerk reactions. I knew there was going to be a lot of hype. I knew there was always going to be those instant narratives about something that are pushed, and I just wanted to give time for everything to just settle down and really get into this on my own terms and not just for YouTube and views' sake. And I really like the anime adaptation. I'll get that out of the way. I love this. And maybe my standards for anime are low given that some of my favorite things have been done terribly with an anime, and I've heard the Hell's Paradise one is rather disappointing, and so the sexual tension between me and this double barrel shotgun is at an all-time high. But when it came to this adaptation, I thought everything about it was a pleasant experience. Of course, the pacing of it is going to be a bit slower given that it's an anime. However, I think a lot of the narrative surrounding it missing that Chainsaw Man feeling is coming from the same people who complained about the Part 2 manga at the current moment, which is people who associate everything about Chainsaw Man, the pacing and how it feels as a series, with the second half of the manga, and not the first half, which builds everything up. I do remember specifically episodes 4 and 5 slowing down, but I like the scenes that they added that really helped to bring more humanity to the characters, especially Aki, who I think they did perfect with the direction of that character, as well as Power. Really, there isn't a single character in the adaptation so far that I could complain about in terms of the voice acting decisions, some of the scenes that they decided to throw in. I really enjoyed the animation, the sound design was great, some of the shots that you see throughout the anime were absolutely beautiful, really added that cinematic feel that brought to life a good chunk of what Fujimoto's manga is really like. And again, some of the aspects of the crazier elements, I think it's just tied to the fact that all of that crazy stuff just hasn't happened within the story yet. And the decision to make it 12 episodes is something that in the long run will serve as a positive, but I could see in the moment why people think more episodes would have been a better choice, as it would have delved into some of the things that could have given the anime even more exposure. But when they go on to adapt some of the latter stuff, I think this choice will be looked back upon more positively. Also, any sort of discussion about this being dropped is absolute nonsense. It was a financial success. It didn't do JJK numbers, but also JJK is the most mainstream targeted thing along with Demon Slayer since the big three, which isn't an insult to those series, it's just the truth of it. As well as the stuff that blew up Chainsaw Man regarding the manga was the second half of part 1. I don't see why the same wouldn't happen with the anime. So long term, I think the Chainsaw Man anime will be looked upon as one of the redefining things within the anime community, because the direction that they took with this was great. That poor director. I've heard that guy received death threats, and there were so many complaints about the way that he went about things and adding the Western movie style and how it just didn't feel like Fujimoto. What feels like Fujimoto to y'all? Is it the crazy, wild, absurd stuff? A lot of that happens in the second half of Chainsaw Man, which is yet to be adapted. I just did not understand so many of the complaints and nitpicks. Apparently fans got upset that Makima's voice wasn't appropriate, that the cold, expressionless character had a cold, expressionless voice. Like, what, you know what, I'm not even gonna bother. I thought the direction with everything was fantastic. Again, I'm never going to be a fan of CGI. It always sticks out like a sore thumb to me because of my bad experience with it before in my beloved series. But I like the usage of it here. It reminded me a bit of when Dorohedoro uses it, although Dorohedoro had far more CGI within its series, so maybe it's not the best comparison. But the usage of it in Chainsaw Man was good. I liked it in the Katana Man versus Chainsaw Man fight. The elements of horror within that series that they portrayed, and just the sound design was great. The soundtracks, I loved all of it. I think the portrayal of characters like Power couldn't have been any better. Really, all the interactions with Power and Denji were like my last two brain cells working together. One being super low maintenance and the other one being a complete sociopath. But overall, the direction with that was great. Loved it. I think Aki as well in the scenes that they added helped characterize the personality even more, seeing his more human side and his day-to-day things outside of his job. And everything that they did with Himeno was fantastic. I think slowing all that stuff down a little bit largely helped the conclusion with her character be more emotional and less just pure shocking as it was for me in the manga. Because I remember reading through it again, and it was shocking to me. But in the anime, just the way that they went about showing and adding in the scenes between her and Aki, and again, just slowing all that stuff down a little bit, was more of a positive than anything. And this is the moment in the story where it's okay to slow some stuff down, so you better grasp the aspects of the characters before things really kick a second gear and there's no looking back. Denji would be a really good example of this. Seeing the state that he was in and how he started off, in those moments where he self-reflects about how he is as a person and whether or not he's capable of empathizing with other people. Those were little scenes that I really did enjoy and that I think came to life a lot more within the anime. I think the comedy at certain moments hit, and other times it left a little bit to be desired, but I also just got done watching Prison School since I had read it, but I never watched it, so going from Prison School to anything else comedy related is a little difficult. But I also think that the comedy is just going to be a bit more jarring, as that weird mix of comedy with such serious and melancholy things was a combination that made Chainsaw Man unique. But yet in the manga, some of that glosses over a little smoother, versus in the anime, when you have music, when you have sound design going into it, it could be this really weird just shift in tone at times. But I really have no complaints about this. The direction of the anime and just everything, I thoroughly enjoyed it from beginning to end. There were certain moments where yes, things slowed down a little bit, but I think that was just in concordance to where the story is at. I think once we see the latter stuff, which is what blew up the manga in anime, I think the anime will give a lot more exposure to the manga as it should. As I think that's a lot of the discussion surrounding it, was the fact that it didn't blow up the manga like JJK's anime did for the JJK manga, or Demon Slayer, which Demon Slayer, I mean, that success was completely unprecedented. In 4 years for that series to be amongst the top 10 selling series of all time is something, I mean, that's absurd. But with Chainsaw Man, I really, the anime itself, if I were to look at the anime itself as an adaptation, as a work of art, I love it. I don't know if there's really anything I can think of right now to where I'd be like, yeah, this could have been greatly improved. I thought the direction in the horror and the timing of things was nice. I like the way that everything flowed and the pacing of it. I like the moments that it chose to slow down, and so we can appreciate the characters more while we still have them. But I don't see where the complaints for this comes from. I feel like it's this discussion surrounding the mainstream impact and success, and we're using that to determine how good of a work of art this really was, when that's ridiculous. And my favorite thing really about the adaptation, and I know that when it comes to the Chainsaw Man anime, or just map in general, that they have overlapping people working on some of these series, but the overall direction of this adaptation, I can't say is something I can compare to something else. And that's great, because that's how I felt about the manga, where when you look at Fujimoto, and not just Fujimoto, there are a lot of authors that are like this. When you read something of theirs, it's really hard to find that essence in something else. And so I can understand this not giving the full instant gratification that people were maybe expecting due to the fact that it was only 12 episodes. But I think this did something more important for me personally, and that was get me super excited for what's to come next for this anime. But yeah, as a fan of a manga, I don't know if I could ask for anything more from an anime adaptation. You ungrateful bastards. Jujutsu Kaisen and Chainsaw Man is getting all this stuff, and my favorite out of the three, which is Hell's Paradise, apparently was given the sloppy seconds of the works. I don't know, I'll have to watch that to check it out. But you ungrateful bastards. So if you were like me and you were on the fence on checking this thing out, don't hesitate. It is so worth your time. Please watch this. As well as I need to get caught up on the part 2 manga, because I've heard some crazy stuff is happening there, but no spoilers. This has been The Masked Man. Hope everyone has a blessed rest of the day, and peace.